What do you think of Perry stepping in there? And
he can't talk either, man.
Well, yeah, but he could be the candidate.
He could be.
Yeah, I think right now it's between him and Romney.
Yeah.
But, so he could be the candidate because other than what he might say from time to time, the fact is he's the governor of Texas, so he brings political clout with him.
Right.
So, that has nothing to do with whether he'd be a good president, what his competence is. But he is a viable candidate from day one, which is why, just by announcing, he's all of a sudden near the top of the polls.
Yeah. The polls are really favoring him now.
How conservative is he compared to Romney?
Oh, he's more conservative than Romney.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. Well, Romney's not conservative. He's got to play conservative now because he's trying to get the Republican nomination. But it's his health care bill in Massachusetts, which has become what they now call Obamacare, and he's trying to distance himself from that,
Romney
which is absurd. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And why he's running from it is crazy because the fact is Massachusetts is the one state where they have almost universal health insurance. I mean, that's amazing. Virtually everybody in Massachusetts has health insurance because of that. Why is that a bad thing? Why aren't we celebrating it? And Massachusetts has much less unemployment than Texas.
Then why did Ted leave Massachusetts to have his brain cancer treated? Just wondering if it's such good health care.
Oh, boy. Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Where did that come from?
I'm just because I don't agree with universal health care.
But I mean, why Ted, though?
Well, first of all, they had their own private insurance, so they didn't need that.
That's always good.
Well,
Isn't that great when Congress can just do whatever they want and talk about how great it is for the people that they come up with this stuff?
Well,
but then their set of rules are totally different. I love that part.
I don't mind that as long as they make sure everyone else has health insurance. See, that's what was great about Kennedy. They could afford everything, but they recognize that millions and millions of Americans cannot afford health insurance. And, lower income people or middle income people love their children as much as rich people do. So they ought to be able to get health insurance as well. And so I think it's wonderful that everyone has health insurance. I mean, why? If you love America, how can you not love the idea that everyone should be able to take care of their family?
Ideologically, it sounds great. Financially, it's a boondoggle. It's a disaster because the government has never been able to run a program and have it work and be profitable and not have so much
It shouldn't be profitable. Social Security?
I don't mean
your grandparents
profitable.
or parents don't like Social Security? My gosh, Social Security is run by the government, and since 1933, it's been a saving grace for millions and millions of people.
Right.
Government runs a lot of things that are okay.
Give you 20 things that didn't work and don't work financially that the government is in charge of. The government's never been trusted with our money because year after year
government.
They show. No, unfortunately, we're not. We're not a good representation of the government does not represent the people anymore.
I agree your politicians don't necessarily represent the people. But frankly, I don't mind having a national defense. I don't mind having government make sure that when we go to restaurants, the food is clean.
Sure.
I don't mind government coming when there's a fire at my home.
When should they then step
police...
out of your ass, though? And
I want government to provide services that people can't provide for themselves. That's what government should do. I don't know why we've suddenly hate everything that, for example, this is what you hear politicians now saying. Everybody's saying it. Government doesn't create jobs. Okay? Let me tell you something. Every single penny that the government spends is to employ somebody. So when you say you want jobs and government doesn't provide jobs, every penny that the government spend is employing someone. It may be someone in the defense industry. It may be a police officer. It may be a teacher. But every single penny is to employ people. So why don't we get off this notion that the government doesn't provide jobs? You know what? If you did away with all the jobs that a tax dollar is paying, you would have millions and millions and millions of more people not employed. It's crazy.
When do you think, Jerry raised a good point, too, about how we think that everything in the government is bad. And I've been wondering this. When did everything with government become negative in the public? Because we trust nobody. I mean, was it the Kennedy assassination? Or what happened where everybody in the government is seen as untrustworthy.
Well, Watergate didn't help. But
Yeah, I'm sure that was a big
It's
part
a
of it. Vietnam.
confluence of behavior as well as the rise of the media and the fact that it's 24/7. And the fact is we now know more things about people than we ever did before. So it's not just government. All institutions are now less credible because we realize that all these heroes that we've set up were set up in an age where you really didn't see the blemishes. There was no one to report on them. Right. So everyone loved the president. Everyone loved their priest. Everybody loved the head of the corporation. Oh, he's a good man. He's the head of the company and all that. But nowadays, you know everything about everybody.
Dirty little secrets.
So therefore, everyone looks as if they have clay feet, which is the truth. See, we all are mortal.
We're disappointed that we realize that they really are just as awful as we are. And it's kind of a letdown when we realize that the individuals that we kind of idolize.
You were ahead of your time there, Jerry. You were ahead of your time.
Well, I certainly had that in mind. I wanted to show what clay feet really were like. Follow me.
What does that mean, clay feet? I've never heard that.
It's like
like
put them up on
Cassius Clay or something?
statue, and then they just topple over because they
can't really move.
They can't live up to your
Never heard that.
Hey, Jerry, who's your guy in this whole race?
Well, I like Obama. He doesn't
For a second term?
Oh, yeah. Now, he hasn't done everything I've wanted.
It's going to rip his hair out.
No.
Yeah. He hasn't done everything I want. He's not liberal enough for me. And I realize I'm not the mainstream. I'm far more liberal than most Americans. I get that. But so then when I get upset with him, it's because I wanted him to push harder on a stimulus. There is no excuse why we don't have everyone working in America. I mean, you could put every construction person back to work tomorrow if you just said, let's fix all the roads, all the school buildings, all the hospitals, everything.
He's been preaching that for a while.
But he doesn't have the votes. And so the question is, in the end, you can't, when you have a Congress that is not of his party and even some Democrats don't go along with him, he can't get the votes. We don't have a dictator here.
What happened before the election? He had votes. He got the votes.
No,
before
well, when he first came in, the very first 2 years, I agree. The stimulus, because the Congress wouldn't, including Democrats, many Democrats, would not go along with a big enough stimulus bill. The stimulus was passed, but it was too small. It didn't employ enough people.
It isn't only that, Jerry. What I've noticed, and it's a great idea, and it sounds very American to put everybody to work fixing the infrastructure of this country.
We did it after the Depression.
Of course. But after the Depression, I don't think there were 8,000 earmarks and bullshit pork barrel crap connected to these bills where you can't read it and go, that's a wonderful idea. Let me turn the page. There's an awful idea connected to it. Why don't they just, I hate the idea that they can't just have one subject, it's voted on, it's passed, and do that, and now let's move on to something else. Instead of trying to shove in some of these, which I don't like, some of these social programs are atrocious, just money pits. And yes, rebuild the infrastructure of the U.S., put people back to work. Love that idea. Who wouldn't love that idea?
Well, apparently a lot of people in government don't like
But
the
I
idea.
don't think they like the idea because of what was attached to it. You can't get up there and tell the American people you're not for putting people to work, fixing our infrastructure,
well, here's what
using
happens.
the tax dollars to improve your country.
So your local congressperson says, I won't vote for this bill unless part of the bill is to fix this road in my neighborhood or to build this hospital in my district, whatever. Mm-hmm. So everyone says there's a price. Each of these Congress people say there's a price for my vote. And that's why the bills get bloated.
Right. Yep.
But that's in the Constitution in terms of you elect a congressperson. The congressperson wants to get reelected because he or she runs every 2 years. And in order to get reelected, you have to show that you did something for your district. Otherwise, someone will challenge you in the primary and you'll get defeated because the other person running says, if you vote for me, I'll make sure these potholes are fixed. I'll make sure this school gets the extra program it needs or whatever. That's the function of democratic politics. It's sloppy, it's fat, it's ugly, etc. But we can't let those things get in the away with the fact that everyone in America needs a job. If you want to have a capitalist system, which we all do, you only have three choices. There are only three ways that people can make money to support their families. They either have a job, they're either on welfare, or they steal. There's no other way to get money.